Remember the white foster parents who adopted Black children and then put them basically in enslavement? Well, the friends, family, they're saying, well, they're the least racist people I know. Put up the picture full mass here. In an update, friends and relatives of a white West Virginia couple accused of locking their adopted Black children in a barn and allegedly forcing them to work as slaves are rallying to their defense, claiming the husband and wife are, quote, the least racist people around, end quote. Now keep that picture up. Please understand, this statement is probably true compared to the relatives and friends of these white foster parents. Understand the context. They are the least racist people out of all of us racist individuals here, is basically the proclamation.
With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show.
Back in October, investigators found two of the couple's Black children, a 14-year-old male child and a 16-year-old female child, inside a ramshackle storage shed. This was on the back of the property, which had no working lights, it had no running water, and fitted with a door that locked not from the inside, but from the outside, thus locking them in. Donald Ray Lantz, 63, and Jeanne Kay Whitefeather, 62, of Sissonville remain in South Central Regional Jail on charges of child abuse after wellness check at their farmhouse last year led to the discovery of the couple's two adopted children out of 5 living in deplorable conditions. Both parents have pleaded not guilty to multiple charges of human trafficking of a minor child, use of a minor child in forced labor, and child neglect, creating substantial risk of serious bodily injury or death. Despite the felony indictment, Whitefeather's brother, 60-year-old Marcus Hughes, maintained that the racially charged allegations against them didn't add up. Quote, they've been made out to be monsters, which isn't true, he told the Daily Mail. You're supposed to be innocent until you're found guilty, end quote. Hughes suggested that the couple's charitable work on behalf of Black children had incensed the community. Quote, just because nobody's told their side of the story doesn't make her guilty, he added. There were issues in the neighborhood because white people are raising Black kids. Police also found a third child identified as a 9-year-old Black girl who was confined to a loft inside the main house away from the presence of adults and isolated from other siblings, according to reports. Now, if you see the statement of the brother, he's not actually defending the allegations. He's just basically saying there's another side to the story, but does not provide any exacting details to that other side. And what other side could it be? These children, according to every report, were incarcerated on the property, locked inside of a barn, no running water, no electricity, et cetera. And then one inside of the property that the parents lived in, that was sectioned off as well, so that it was basically incarceration of the 9-year-old too. The couple's 2 remaining adopted children are 11 and 6 years of age. All 5 of the adopted children are now in the care of the state. Hughes says they haven't been told where the kids are or how they're doing. He also mentioned that authorities won't let the family provide clothes and toys for the children. He said the family is no longer supporting adoption due to the accusations, noting they moved from Washington in search of a normal life. Quote, we don't even know how to spell racist, Hughes exclaimed. Another quote, "It's just not part of the culture there. We're the least racist people around. It's not who we are. And to be accused of that is just icky for our family." Yes, he said icky. Hughes said he has always supported law enforcement, but now said he was rethinking that stance, feeling that the couple was being railroaded by law enforcement. We're glad that you always have supported law enforcement. The issue is anyone supporting the Black children on the property? You understand? That's what the issue is. And this is especially personal for me because I was a foster child myself. And I know some of the conditions that permeate out of that system. To have children locked up inside of a barn, to have children not having access to running water, and then to defend this action publicly as if your relative was doing those Black children a favor is insane. But there's more. Quote, "I'm a blue stripe guy," Hughes went on. "I've always backed the cops." But then we got to this. And we went out in the house and looked at ourselves and we said, this doesn't seem right. They just lied. It's not even a mistake. They're being held in jail based on information that's not true. Before moving to West Virginia, the couple lived in Washington State, where neighbors called police on the couple after allegedly witnessing them mistreating their kids, according to reports. This seemingly prompted Lantz and Whitefeather to move into 2,200 miles east to evade police and to evade the child welfare authorities. Several police reports from the family's time in Washington revealed additional disturbing details, including instances where two of their children ran away from home after the couple allegedly forced one child at gunpoint to remain in his room and used a bullwhip for discipline, according to the official report. Daily Mail said its sources revealed that the couple packed their bags for West Virginia when they learned the sheriff's office in Okanogan County, Washington, was preparing to remove the couple's oldest son from the home for his own safety by October 2023. The family had moved to the ranch in West Virginia, where police rescued the children and arrested the parents after receiving a call from a concerned neighbor. See the pattern here. At their initial hearing in October, Lantz and Whitefeather both pleaded not guilty. The county circuit judge, Akers, set bond at $200,000 each. In early February, the couple sold their 80-acre property near the Canadian border for $725,000, signed over power of attorney to Hughes, who arranged bail. The couple was released that month to await trial. There's more. They remained free for several months. But in May, a grand jury indicted them on more than a dozen new charges, including human trafficking, which prompted Akers, the judge, to revoke the lower bond and order the couple jailed again in lieu of $500,000 each. Quote, "Along with human trafficking and neglect with serious risk of bodily injuries or death, I don't find the bond to be sufficient," Akers told defense attorneys in the second hearing after the grand jury increased indictment. The upgraded charges included alleged use of a minor child in forced labor, slavery, child neglect creating a substantial risk of serious bodily injury or death, as well as false swearing and potential civil rights violations based on color, race, or ancestry, according to official court documents. The indictment suggests that 3 of the 5 children were Black and were adopted from a shelter for the homeless and vulnerable. The human rights charges stemmed from those children being specifically targeted and forced to work because of their race. Let me put up the picture of the living quarters. A small toilet seat torn from an RV was placed inside of this barn for the children to share whenever they had to go to the restroom, police said. A close friend of Whitefeather, Darren Wise, also came to her defense, claiming the allegations were completely untrue. Quote, "The family was treated horribly," he told the Daily Mail. Did they make a mistake leaving? Probably. I wouldn't deny that. But the allegations, I don't see how they could be accurate. End quote. Wise suggested that Lantz and Whitefeather were not well liked in the neighborhood. Jeanne had expressed to me that some of the neighbors in West Virginia weren't as welcoming as they had anticipated or expected them to be, which is why they were in the process of moving, he said. Previously, during the second bond hearing, Whitefeather explained that the barn where the children were found was a teenage clubhouse and maintained that the children were not actually locked inside. The neighbors disputed this claim, saying, quote, "The children were forced to perform farm labor and were not permitted inside the residence." The indictment states, when rescued, the 16-year-old informed deputies that they had been locked in the barn for approximately 12 hours and had last eaten around sunrise, according to Burdett. The children locked inside could not exit the shed, so deputies had to force their way into the shed. I want to put up the picture of what was taken when they got inside of the shed. So Deputy H.K. Burdett entered the shed, okay? They immediately noticed something, smell, okay? They noticed a smell, and a wave of heat comes rushing out. Why? Because they've been locked inside. There's no circulating air. When they opened that door, they felt the heat and the smell. Both children were dirty. The body odor, strong. While the young male child, according to the report, had open sores on his very bare feet. The children told investigators they were forced to sleep on a bare concrete floor. No mattress, no covers. I want to say this right here. This is actually worse condition than what you would have historically seen in slave quarters. We have descriptions of them. These children were forced to stay inside of a death box. And if it had not been for those neighbors and these deputies, those children could be dead or something significant, an injury. There's more. Police remained at the house for 3 hours, okay? I want you to understand there's a psychological impact here for all of these children. They remained in that house for 3 hours before Lantz arrived home with an 11-year-old male child. When authorities checked the home for other potential victims, they found another one, a 9-year-old. A 9-year-old in the loft. And Lantz was then placed under arrest about an hour later. Whitefeather returned home and guided deputies to another 6-year-old girl who was visiting with another couple from their church. During the latest bond hearing, the county prosecutors argued that the couple's original cash bonds were likely obtained through trafficking profits, pointing to the fact that the couple produced the $400,000 bond despite a lack of obvious means to do so. At the same proceeding, Lantz and Whitefeather claimed they possessed no income or assets, raising questions about the source of the funds for their bond. County Assistant Prosecuting Attorney characterized the money posted for the couple's release as contraband directly or indirectly used or intended for use to violate human trafficking laws. The prosecutor said they have since sold their home where they were arrested for $295,000. All those funds have now been seized by the court as potential profits from human trafficking, rendering them inaccessible for the defendants. Now, I want to explain this part. It's not simply because they were able to post bond. It is because they were unable to provide any connection between earned income and the bond they had. We call it ill-gotten gains. And because of that, because there's no distinct connection between the amount of money they were able to put up and the job or income or asset connection, they were able to basically seize the money as ill-gotten gains. Prosecutors argue that even if the bond money came from legitimate sources, its use was intended to further human trafficking and forced labor operations. Akers also remarked that the case was unlike any other she had heard during her entire career as a judge. Quote, it alleges human trafficking, human rights violations, the use of forced labor, Akers said, the judge said, according to reports, human rights violations specific to the fact that these children were targeted because of their race, and they were used basically as slaves from what the indictment alleges. Both Lantz and Whitefeather pleaded not guilty to the new charges in the indictment. However, they remain in jail as they have been unable to meet the higher bond amount. Their next court appearance is scheduled for September 9th. Where are they getting the money? Where are they getting the money? Who's trying to protect them? What were they doing with these children beyond what the report is telling us? A 16-year-old child. One of them is 16 years old, obviously old enough to understand how to articulate the facts of what is happening. The other children, desperate condition, deputies find them inside of a locked barn. They have to break into the barn to get them out. And then you have family and friends and possibly members of their church coming out to defend them, and none of them say a damn thing about the children. That should tell you all you need to know about where their priorities are. This is sad. We'll remain on top of this story. All right, Francesca, thoughts here?
I mean, this is absolutely horrifying. This is probably one of the most horrifying stories of the year, although the year is halfway over, who knows? But I mean, I know they were arrested last year, but the details that we're learning this year are just insane. Yep. I'm glad that there are civil rights violation charges, right? It's important to know that the race of these children and their adopted, I don't even want to call them parents, but their keepers, whomever, they're in, the people who were abusing them were different, and that they were white and they were taking advantage of them specifically and targeting them because they were black. Doc, this is so scary. And there's two things. Why in the hell were they allowed to move? How in the hell did they get so far to do this for so long? But then also, we live in a time where the right to an abortion, right, is being completely obliterated around this country. And what are Republicans saying? Oh, you should put up your kid for adoption. Look at this adoption, this is great. Oh, everyone should just adopt, right? I'm telling you right now, this is not the first time we will see a story as heinous as this about the mistreatment of children in our lifetimes.
Right.
Like, this is gonna keep happening, and it will only get worse if we stop allowing, if we don't protect families and we don't protect the right to actually, not put a kid in a terrible situation into up for adoption. And I'm not saying it's always a terrible situation, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yep.
All of this puts children at risk, and all of this is just ripe. I mean, Doc, come on. We're the least racist people. They're the least racist people you've ever met. Who said that? Donald Trump said that.
That's right.
That's a Trump phrase. And yet you don't have to spell pedophile to be one. Nobody knows how to spell misdemeanor, but you're damn guilty of a few. Like, come on now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, the story is just insane.
The retorts were quite ridiculous. None of them spoke to the condition of the children nor how they were found. And then the reality is, in the first investigation, when they decided to basically flee the state, this should have become a federal case immediately because they crossed state lines. We will provide updates